Hello and welcome to this edition of Beth Talks, where we bring you extraordinary people from all around the world in very diverse areas of expertise who generously share from their own experiences, obviously, their beliefs, their experiences, their passions, all in a very generous way to help to inspire, to motivate, to educate, even sometimes to entertain you. And today is certainly no exception. My very special guest today is Poonam Bhuchar. And first, let me just say welcome to you, Poonam.
Thank you so much, Beth. It's a pleasure to be here.
Truly my pleasure. I've anticipated this talk for quite a while because, for an assortment of reasons. For one, I'm a lifelong learner and I love to read, to explore, what have you. But I must say, I believe that the most powerful learning that we have is experiential. And when we combine those experiences with book knowledge, of course, that equals wisdom. And it's from a place of wisdom that we are best positioned to be able to mentor, counsel, motivate, coach, teach, simply to share in any way that we choose to those beliefs, those experiences, those passions. And you truly speak from a very experiential position. And I thank you so much for your willingness to share where you come from, what brought you to be the author of an award-winning book called Safe from the Pain. And I think just that simple title, Safe from the Pain, says so much, certainly suggests so much. So thank you for your willingness, your candor, your humility, your honesty, your openness for talking with us today.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure.
So I mentioned that you're an award-winning author. You're a coach, a mentor. I have to say, really, my feeling about you is that you are a true humanitarian. And do I understand as well that you are an attorney?
That's correct.
So my goodness, you come from so many different angles, which again brings us back to that very powerful position that you speak from, which is wisdom, combining the book knowledge and the experience. I really want to get right into this, and I'm inviting you, please, to share with our viewers. When you are also a public speaker, I should mention, when you are speaking to an audience, what is it that you're sharing with them? What is it that you're coaching them, inspiring them through? What's the link to your talk to be safe from pain?
So
What is that?
I go through the SAFE method, Beth, but ultimately it is like you said, I come from a professional experience in which I've done some family law. I've experienced a lot of trauma in my life. And it's really about sharing the story that if somebody in my position who was an attorney, who was practicing some family law, who had a very supportive family, still couldn't come out of the woodworks because of the trauma that I was suffering. It's about sharing that there is light at the end of the tunnel. My SAFE method is one method that I've devised to come out of it that has been very useful to a lot of people. And just sharing and giving people hope that it's not all doom and gloom. This life is a gift. It is beautiful. It is precious. And we're here to live it. It's a journey.
It's a process, right? That really should never end.
No, and it's a beautiful gift, and we're supposed to live it with joy and pride and enjoy the experiences instead of live in our trauma and play the movie back all the time in the past. And that's what I'm here to share.
Right. So as they say, the past is beyond our control at this point. The future is what will come, and the only thing that we can deal with is the here and the now. So I want to turn this over to you so you can share what it is that you share with your other audiences when you're talking about helping people heal from emotional pain and trauma so that they can move on and live a very happy and a fulfilling life. So I share you with the rest of
Thank
our
you so much.
audience. Here, my friends, is Poonam Bhuchar.
Hi, everyone. So, as Beth said, my name is Poonam Bhuchar. I have a question for the audience. So, how many of you have broken a limb and just walking around with it and pretended that it doesn't exist and held on to it for a month without going to see a doctor? It really does sound like an absolutely ridiculous question. And on some level, it is. But now let me ask you the next question. How many of you deal with your emotional pain as it comes up and go to see a therapist or get the help that you need? I would argue that most of us don't. Now, why most of us don't, I will go into in a little bit. But let me tell you about a little bit about myself. My name is Poonam Bhuchar. I'm an attorney, author, life coach, and a family law mediator. I have suffered decades and decades of unresolved trauma, to be exact, over 3 decades. I have to give you my disclaimer because it's inherent in me as an attorney. I am not a medical therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I am somebody that has suffered through decades of trauma and come out of it on the other side. So, practically, from a very young age, I was sexually assaulted in high school publicly and carried that trauma with me for decades and decades without realizing it. I was humiliated in a high school by a boy, and there were rumors around there in the school saying that I was raped. It's bad enough to go through the shame of it being publicly done in the school field amongst a group of people versus living it in the high school of constantly hearing about it and people saying that I deserved it or that I was raped. And I also came from a South Asian culture in which I had to go home and pretend everything was okay because it's not talking about the way that I was raised. So what was my way of dealing with it? My way of dealing with it was taking 3 showers, hoping that the shame and the humiliation would wash away with the soap suds, and that would be it. Ultimately, the pain took over in the pit of my stomach so much that I ended up taking 23 paracetamol pills because I wanted the pain to stop and I wanted my life to end because I didn't know any other way. I thereafter went to a couple of therapy sessions because I came from immigrant parents who didn't really believe in therapy and honestly, no fault of their own, didn't know what all this was about or how to deal with it. And they were having to deal with the financial struggles of raising 3 children in a foreign country that they didn't know. After the therapy sessions, I went to an all-girls school, but the walls that built inside of me, and I didn't even realize how much trauma there was inside of me. I went on to college and lived life in a way of where I would constantly carry the weight of the world on my shoulders and was always worried about the next thing and what society would think about me, how I would meet the South Asian expectations of marrying someone in an arranged marriage after I'd been assaulted, because it is something that was shamed upon. Thereafter, I made a multitude of incorrect decisions because I had a lack of self-worth. I felt shame. I felt guilt. I didn't know who I was. So what better way of dealing with it than instead of going to therapy, I decided to force myself into an arranged marriage. And ironically, not because my parents told me to, it was because I chose to do it at the age of 21 years old. I left London and I came to the United States to live with a family I didn't know. And primarily because I thought that this was the best way of dealing with my emotional baggage. And the truth is, you can run away from the situation, but your emotional baggage comes with you. And I did tell the person that I was marrying, but my gut had told me, even on the day of my marriage, that the person that I was marrying was not correct for me and that there was something a little off. And lo and behold, through 13 years of a pretty rough marriage that had abuse on many different levels. I finally plucked up the courage to walk out of it after having two beautiful children who were 4 and 6 at the time. No family in the United States. I was a lawyer that worked part-time, and I had to start my life from scratch again. Thereafter, you would think at that point that I would think, okay, let's go get therapy and figure out and work out this emotional trauma. I was in such denial. I didn't know who I was. I was spiraling in my thoughts. There was no clarity of what I was thinking of, that I ultimately ended up getting remarried again. And that was the shortest marriage in the Kardashian marriage. Thereafter, I became partner in a law firm where I probably was making less money because you have to invest in the law firm. All these decisions were coming out of a lack of self-worth, lack of self-confidence, and some of it out of ego, because my ex-husband had told me that I would amount to nothing and I needed to prove otherwise. I had 2 children. I had to provide financially. And basically, there was a multitude of decisions that spiraled out of that. I lost my house. I lost my business. And I had 2 strokes. Basically, the bottom line is that there is enough research to show that your lack of emotional well-being affects your mental state and ultimately takes a toll on your physical state. Practically from birth, society teaches us, not just in the South Asian culture, I would say across the board, that it's okay to discuss physical well-being, but we're not comfortable discussing our emotional well-being. And a lot of us shy away from asking other people about their emotional well-being because we don't want to be intrusive and we don't know how to ask. What ends up happening is a lot of those people that go through those emotions end up feeling very lonely. A lot of us will shove down our emotions, pretend they don't exist, they'll come up again, they'll rise up, and then we'll shove them down again, hoping that they go further down. Some of us will even numb them with vices such as alcohol, drugs, we'll go shopping, anything but face those demons that are inside of us. And the truth is that doesn't work. And the number one reason shoving those emotions down and pretending they don't exist doesn't work is because of what Carl Jung says. Resistance is persistence. Whatever you resist will consistently persist. And I describe our emotional scars as the way we have a physical scar on our hand, that if we don't let it heal and we keep picking at it, there's a pink scar on the edge. But if we don't let it heal completely, it's always there in the background with our emotions. So I'm here to tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that we do have a beautiful life and we are supposed to live it. And it is joyful. But we have to get there. We have to face our emotions. So one of the things I have devised to work through emotional trauma is what I call the SAFE method. Whether we're adults, teenagers, or children, we're all looking to feel emotionally safe and emotionally validated. So let me tell you what the SAFE method stands for, and then I will go into each one in detail. The S stands for stop and accept that you're in pain. The A stands for accept responsibility for where you are and the decisions that you've made in life. The F stands for 3 types of forgiveness. Forgiveness of the person that you perceive has hurt you, forgiveness of the universe, and forgiveness of yourself. And E stands for embrace. Today I am who I am because of my journey and what I've been through. And I honestly believe that I've been through what I've been through because it's my sole purpose to come out here and share it with people, to show them that there is hope and that you don't have to live in shame and you don't have to shy away from your emotional trauma or any emotional trauma that you're feeling. So basically the S stands for stop and accept your pain, which is something that we don't do. Even a train has to come to a stop at a train station. If it doesn't, it crashes. Very much like our emotions. We can keep going on the hamster wheel, we can keep pretending that it doesn't exist, but ultimately it will catch up with you, the way mine did. I had plenty of signs in my life. In my early 20s, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which I completely dismissed and told my rheumatologist basically that they didn't know what they were talking about. I was there at the end of my 20s. I was diagnosed with depression, and I absolutely thought my doctor was ridiculous. And I basically said to him, "Are you crazy? I have a good job. I have two beautiful kids. I have a house. I don't have a shortage of money," because I didn't know what depression looked like. Depression didn't look like that to me. And that's not what I viewed depression as. I was going to work, I was functioning. But in hindsight, this was the universe knocking at my door, telling me to look at what's going on inside. And I didn't want to. I did everything else but that. Ultimately, I was literally brought to my knees. I was at work one day and my associate came in to ask me a question. I went to get off the chair to get something, and I physically could not get off the chair. I was paralyzed. I had to be taken into the hospital, where I was taken for a week. I had a spinal tap that went wrong. I had the neurologist tell me that if I didn't calm down, I would have a stroke. And I was about 38 years old at that time. And I remember turning around to her and saying, "You're being absolutely ridiculous. There is no way I'm having a stroke." 2 years later, a year after that, after those points, I knew I didn't want to end my life. I knew I wanted to live of doing this. So I went on a spiritual journey. I allowed myself and gave myself the grace to say and acknowledge that I am in pain. I am worthy of saying that I am in pain. And the minute you stop and accept that you're in pain is the moment that you need to do something about it, because you found yourself worthy to take a breath and say that to yourself. And again, in my book, I go through all the steps of how I got to that point. But that's basically what the S stands for. The A stands for accept responsibility for where you are and the decisions that you've made in life. So we all have to play. None of us are blameless, whether we have a 2% part to play or whether we have a 90% part to play in the decisions that we make. We do have a part. I became so comfortable in playing the victim in my life and justifying why I was feeling the way I was and the positions that I was in. Because I was blaming the whole world. I was blaming my spouse. I was blaming my parents. God knows I would blame Dunkin' Donuts for putting the wrong sugar in my coffee, because I was that pissed off at life. And ultimately, being a victim becomes comfortable. And I really should have won an Oscar for the way I played the victim. But ultimately, I had to change. And the only way to change is when you empower yourself to accept responsibility. So that doesn't mean I'm to blame for all the things that happen to me, but I do have a responsibility for the decisions I make. For instance, in my divorce, I believe I had 5% responsibility. I didn't do anything to stop the things that were happening. I understand why I didn't. I was insecure. I had a lack of self-confidence. I didn't feel I was worthy, all those things. But ultimately, I made the decision not to do anything. There were mistakes that I made, and I need to be accountable for those. And the minute that you accept responsibility for where you are in life and the decisions that you made and how you reacted to certain things, you come from a place of empowerment. You come from a place of saying, I can take this by the reins. I am going to be in control of it, and I can then do the things that I need to take care of this, whether it's go to therapy, go down a religious path, go down a a therapeutic path, whatever it may be, or a spiritual path, but you start to seek solutions to where you are in life. The F stands for 3 types of forgiveness. Forgiveness of the person that you forgive for any altruistic reason. I forgive for very selfish reasons because I don't want to be held captive by that person. That person has moved on. They may not even realize that they've hurt you. They may not even care. But I don't want to play that same movie reel in the back of my head and stay in that same position stuck for the rest of my life. I want to move forward in my life. And the moment that I realize that forgiveness is not something that comes from a superpower, but forgiveness is something that comes from me within and is in my control, made it easier. And the way I find it easier to forgive somebody that has hurt me is by coming from a place of empathy. That doesn't mean that I agree with the things that they've done. It means that I understand that they have their baggage for XYZ reasons that weren't resolved. And therefore, they acted the way that they did. And it just makes it slightly easier for me to forgive them and understand. The second type of forgiveness is forgiveness of the universe. We all sit here and compare. We all sit here and say, well, why didn't this happen to so-and-so? And why does this always happen to me? Why do I always have to go through this? The truth is, we all don't have the same blueprint in life. Perhaps there are things that I needed to learn. Perhaps there are things that you need to learn that I don't need to learn. Perhaps the universe feels we can deal with it better than somebody else can. Why would we want harm done to our fellow human beings by comparing and wishing this upon them? Instead, it's better to learn the things that we need to. And in my life, very quickly, I've come to the conclusion that I'm okay with the things that have happened to me because it's allowed me to sit here today and hopefully heal and give hope to so many other people. So I'm just a more minuscule in this world. And if I can help 10 other people, to me, it was all worth it. The third type of forgiveness I discussed is forgiveness of oneself, which I found the hardest thing to do, especially with children. Forgiveness of oneself for making incorrect decisions because I didn't know who I was. I came from a platform of insecurity, confusion, but forgiving myself and feeling myself worthy to forgive and saying that I did the best I could in that situation. And when you go through the S, the A, and F, you get to a point of liberation, complete liberation, where you feel like you can start from scratch again. And that's what the E is. Embrace your emotions. I know most of us run away from them, but embrace them. They're part of us. We're all great at accepting the accolades, mistakes we've made, because those are the things that we learn from and make us who we are today. Accept that. Accept the whole of yourself. Until you accept the whole of yourself, you cannot align with yourself, and there is no way you can know what you want in life. I can tell you that emotional work is the same as any kind of physical work or trying to learn a craft. It requires consistency, it requires dedication, and it requires you to be very truthful with yourself, which is the hardest thing to do. Once you achieve that, once you know who you are, I promise you that you can manifest most of the things that you want in life, like I have, including me sitting here today, sharing this, writing the book. And I will tell you that this gift that we've been given of life truly is a gift. It is a very joyful gift and beautiful gift that we're here to live and learn and teach. So I ask you today to make the choice that you want. You are the master of your own destiny. To make the choice to change the way that you think, to align with yourself, and to work through your emotions. And I hope that some of this may have triggered something inside of you where you believe that you are worthy of working on yourself, just the way we work on anything else in our life, because we take care of everything. And we have a responsibility to take care of our emotions, because otherwise, I believe we create what's called generational trauma. If we each don't take care of our own emotions, show up in our relationships, in our workplace environment, projecting those on other people, and therefore continuing the cycle. So I hope this helps.
Poonam, I listened so intently and I took so many notes. Thank you so much for your honesty. I want to say I am so sorry that you have this wonderful knowledge and wisdom to share. In other words, how you came to have it, how you came to discover it through your own experiences, which as a high school student, I can only imagine how traumatic. I can't even, I won't pretend. I can only imagine, and I'm grateful to say I can only imagine what that must have been like, also the cultural differences, etc. But you are the epitome of a survivor to a thriver. And that through your own program, SAFE, I think it just epitomizes the fact that you embraced it. And to be forgiving of your assaulter, the universe, and everything that everybody is doing to us, and especially yourself. It was not your fault. You did not deserve it. You did nothing to make it happen. The power of that, the power of forgiveness of anything is it's so transformative in your state of mind. So I applaud you for being able to forgive. Would you agree that a lot of people think that if you forgive somebody else, you're accepting the personal responsibility for everything that happened, and that's why we resist that forgiveness is almost assumed to be an admission of our own, not accountability, but responsibility?
I agree, but it took me a while to understand. We're really just burning ourselves. That person may not even care that they've hurt you. That person, but we're really ruining our own lives, our own relationships, because we are so resentful. And forgiving doesn't mean, like you said, that I'm okay with what's happened.
Right.
Maybe something happened to you as a child, or maybe, you received some trauma. And that's why I talk about the generational trauma, because it was understood somebody behaved that way with me. I'm not okay with it, but I need to forgive because I want to enjoy my life. I don't want to ruin the rest of my life because of what happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Right. And in not forgiving, you're really letting that person who perpetuated or committed that assault on you to kind of keep you in prison. They've kind of taken over your life.
I couldn't agree with you more. And you're giving your power. You're playing the victim again.
Right. But that's so easy to do, isn't it? That is so easy to do. It's not my fault. It's like you say, it's someone else, it's everybody else, but it's never me.
I did it for years, decades. I was so angry. It's easier because you don't have to look inside.
And it's certainly understandable. Not only is it easy, I think it's a very natural human way to perceive things. I didn't do anything wrong. I was the victim. Therefore, I will always be the victim. You then become the victim of yourself.
But that's what I'm saying, Beth. This happened when I was 13. I was carrying this nonsense till I was 38 and made a multitude of incorrect decisions because I just didn't even realize what was going on inside of me.
So in the process, the SAFE, the SAFE, and I love that acronym. I love everything it stands for. It's logical, it's practical, it's reasonable. Most importantly, it's possible. It's possible. And do I perceive correctly that it shouldn't be something that we think is just a decision that we make? Is it a process?
It is absolutely a process, just like anything else we do in life. It needs time, dedication. I call it honeymooning with ourselves in no perverse way, but we need to get to know ourselves, right?
Because, oh, that point that you just made, because are we more concerned with what other people are thinking of us or believing about us, even though they have no clue? They're
Right.
just seeing the outside. They have no clue what really the essence of any human being is. Um, and it's easy to fake it. It's easy to fake it.
Oh, because you create a wall between what's really going on. I was, I should have gotten an Oscar for faking it too.
I love your pure honesty. It's such a sign of your own personal growth. Not that you're saying, well, I don't want to go back to what you're not saying. I want to say what you are saying. And a very important point that you made is the generational effect that it has. You were a young mother with this history in her life. Now you're a young mother in a marriage that apparently wasn't working. And you have to think beyond yourself and say, how is this going to affect my children? And so on and so on and so on. And only when we come to that moment of accepting, embracing, forgiving, can we really move on? It really, I have to tell you, I live in logic. I'm the most practical person in the world. I live in pure logic. And oh my gosh, it just makes so much sense. What do people have to do? Share with our viewers what they need to do.
So, I mean, in terms of continuing the SAFE method, I have a website, emotionallysafe.com. I have coaching. I'm putting a retreat together for couples who are on the brink of divorce to help them get to an amicable divorce, because I've seen very many divorces and it's not worth it because it does create that generational pain. So I want to use the legal aspect that I know, plus the emotionally safe method, plus my personal issues, to basically teach people to do this in an amicable manner, reconcile or do it in an amicable manner. Because you are going to be in each other's lives if you have kids.
Yeah, of course.
The other, I've got a course that is coming out hopefully at the end of September. And as I said, I do coaching one-on-one and in groups as well. And I do speaking engagements.
Yeah. And sadly, there are so many people, oh, we just lost you. There are so many people who need Poonam's help who might not even realize that they do because they haven't accepted it. So I'm going to connect right here and put this link up where you can connect with Poonam. We're having a little technical difficulty. There you are, you're back. Okay, I just put up this link because I was saying in your absence that there are so many people who I think in hearing you speak today, and all those who are in your audience may suddenly feel, she's talking to me, she's talking about me. And in that, in hearing that, there is the opportunity to move forward. So you mentioned you do coaching, you have a course coming up. We put up a link here on Bev Talks where people can connect with you. A very important phrase that you said, and again, I loved it. You said, resistance is persistence. And
it's a call phrase, yeah.
And to persist in something, persistence and perseverance are two very different things.
Absolutely.
And I've coached on that many times. I'm saying persistence is like, continuing to bang your head against the wall and thinking eventually it's going to feel good. It's not. Perseverance then is saying, that didn't work. Let me find another path. Absolutely. So when you persist, right. So when you persist in something, you're expecting everything to change around you to accommodate you, as opposed to, therefore that's the resistance, as opposed to taking a step in another direction. I could talk to you all day because you're incredible. I also love the phrase, you didn't say it, but, and I don't mean to be indelicate in saying this, but take your mess and make it your message. And I think that applies magnificently to you in what was more than a mess. I don't want to diminish the impact of that, but that we all have the power to do that. And most importantly, I think is one of the kindest, most generous things that we can do, not only for the person we forgive, but for ourselves, so that we unlock those doors, we break down those walls that you spoke about, and you're saying, that did not define me. I just took control.
Absolutely. I
forgive you. I forgive you because you're the one who needs to be forgiven.
Absolutely. I could not agree more.
Wow, you're getting me really, really understandably riled up here. And so stop carrying your emotional baggage. It gets very, very heavy. The longer you drag it, the worse it feels, the heavier it becomes. You can't do it forever. Please connect with this link. If you have suffered, and it doesn't have to be to any great extent. If you are just feeling that you are not in control of your own life, your own destiny, what lies ahead of you, forget what's behind you. We can't control that. Use that, and I don't mean to trivialize it, use that to be the stronger person you are today so that you can have a better tomorrow.
Absolutely. I love that.
I love you. I mean, I have so much respect for you. I want to continue to learn more about you, to work with you, to help bring your beautiful, magnificent, generous.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Well, let's make it happen. That's what we do here at BEP Talks. We make these connections. So I thank you for being our very, very special guest today. And I remind all of our viewers that you can connect with Poonam. You can even be a guest yourself on BEP Talks. Share your story, whatever it may be. Doesn't all have to be very traumatic. Doesn't always have to come from pain. It's about sharing your story to help others through your own personal beliefs, experiences, and passions, to help inspire, motivate, encourage others in this world, because I don't know, I've been around a long, long time, and I just don't think there's ever been a time in my own life that we've needed it more.
I agree. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
It's been absolutely my pleasure, and you will be a gift to everyone who views you. So thanks to everybody who joined us on this BEP Talks. You can go back many, many times, hear Poonam's message about SAFE, what it means, the whole process. Please take advantage of it. Live your better life tomorrow. Put yesterday behind you. I wish you nothing but the best. May I ask you, how old are your children now?
My son is 22 and my daughter's 20.
Oh, come on now.
Seriously?
Well, God bless you. When you said that they were 4 and 6, I figured you were going to say they're like 12 and 10. Oh my gosh. Well, you are magnificent in every way. It has been my absolute blessing to personally meet you and to share you with our audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Till we talk again, everybody, be well. And as I always say, may the best always be yet to come. Bye for now.
Bye.